My mother-in-law invited my wife's ex to Thanksgiving and smirked, "Relax, we're not replacing you. Just reminding you that you're not the only option." My wife laughed along and added, "If you're that insecure, you can leave." Can you imagine discovering your wife, barefoot in December, performing a manifestation ritual with crystals and candles in your apartment courtyard, all because you just served her divorce papers? And then realizing this bizarre scene is just the tip of the iceberg of a twisted family drama that's been playing out for years, orchestrated by your mother-in-law and your wife's ex? That's where I found myself a few months ago. My attorney leaned over, looked at my phone screen, and asked, "Is she performing a ritual?" I just sighed. "She's manifesting," I told him. Or whatever she calls it this week. Jared, my boy since college, the same guy who bailed me out of jail that night everything went sideways, texted again, "Building security is watching her. Nobody knows what to do. This is insane." I zoomed in on the photo. Natalie was wearing her spiritual protection necklace, the one she bought off Etsy for $80. Guess it doesn't shield you from divorce papers or prenups. A few months ago, I had a wife, had in-laws, had a life that looked normal from the outside. Now I was watching that same wife do a courtyard seance while my attorney waited for me to sign on the dotted line. So, how'd I get here? Glad you asked. Here's what happened. I'm Matt, 33, and I work as an accounting manager at a healthcare supply company, pulling in about $92,000. My wife Natalie, 29, is a yoga instructor, making maybe $35,000 between her studio classes and private clients. We'd been married for 2 years, together for 4 before that. Before we got married, I insisted on a prenup. My dad, a retired paralegal, drilled it into me since I was 18, love is great. Contracts are better. The prenup had an adultery clause, emotional or physical, and a financial infidelity clause for any unauthorized transfers over $5,000. She'd signed it without much pushback, said she trusted the universe to guide our marriage. I trusted paperwork. When we met, she was normal, grounded. Had a few crystals on her nightstand, but so does half of Pinterest. She didn't weaponize it. The shift happened maybe a year into our marriage, manifestation podcasts, sage bundles, then the vocabulary changed. Every disagreement became about energy. Every boundary I set was low vibration behavior. Every time I called her out on something, I was attracting conflict with my ego. She was using it to dodge responsibility. When I forgot to pick up groceries once, I was disrupting our household harmony. When she maxed out a credit card on healing crystals and sound bowls, I was closed off to abundance for questioning it. Every time she messed up, the universe had a lesson for me. Every time I had a concern, I was operating from a space of fear. I tried to talk to her about it once, sat her down, calm, told her I felt like she used spiritual language to shut down conversations instead of having them. She looked at me with this pitying smile and said, "You're just not ready to ascend yet." Then she burned sage around my side of the bed to clear the resistant energy. Her older sister Kelsey's picture-perfect life started getting louder on social media, the vacation photos, the designer bags. Their mom, Deborah, ate it up, constantly sharing Kelsey's posts, commenting heart emojis. Natalie felt invisible, so she found spirituality, the kind where accountability becomes negativity and criticism becomes someone else's problem with their own energy. Her family was worse. Sister Kelsey, 35, works in pharmaceutical sales. Her whole identity was being the daughter who made it. Her marriage was a glossy shell with nothing inside. Her husband Chris was checked out, barely spoke at family events, looked like a guy serving a life sentence. But on Instagram, couple goals. Her mom, Deborah, early 60s, a retired teacher who'd remarried into money. Everything was about appearances, what the neighbors thought, what she could brag about at her book club. Deborah had never thought I was good enough for Natalie. Not because I was a bad guy, but because I wasn't impressive enough to brag about. She couldn't say, "My son-in-law the surgeon." She had to say, "My son-in-law the accountant." And it physically pained her. They'd make comments about our apartment, about when we'd upgrade, about whether I was really going to stay in accounting forever, about how Natalie could have had anyone. 2 Christmases ago, Deborah gave Kelsey a Rolex and gave me a self-help book called Unlocking Your Potential. She'd highlighted chapters. Kelsey's birthday dinners were at steakhouses with private rooms. Mine was at a chain restaurant where Deborah complained about the parking. Small cuts, constant. One time at a family barbecue, Deborah introduced me to her neighbor as Natalie's current husband. Current. Like I was a lease she was planning to trade in when the mileage got too high. Chris caught that one, too. Gave me a look across the yard that said everything without saying anything. Natalie calmed me down and told me she is like this because she is not well these days. I brushed it off. The week before Thanksgiving, Natalie was anxious. Kept talking about alignment and energy protection and how Thanksgiving was going to be a test of our vibrations. Tuesday, I came home early, found Natalie on the phone in the bedroom with the door closed. When I walked in, she got quiet fast. Said it was just Kelsey. Too defensive. Wednesday morning, I noticed Natalie had been researching apartments. Her laptop was open, Zillow up, showing studio apartments across town, cheap ones. I screenshot it, didn't say anything. We drove to Deborah's place Thursday morning. Kelsey was already there with Chris. He's nice enough, quiet, dead behind the eyes. Deborah answered the door. Natalie, sweetheart. Big hug. Then she looked at me. Stone cold. Then I saw him. James. Natalie's ex-boyfriend, sitting on Deborah's couch like he belonged there. I stopped in the doorway. What's he doing here? Natalie touched my arm. Don't make this weird. He's practically family. Mom stayed close with him. He's your ex. We're all adults, Matt. This is about moving past ego and embracing community energy. Deborah swept in, touching James' arm. Relax, Matt. We're not replacing you. It's just a reminder you're not the only option. She said it with a smile like she was saying the funniest thing ever. I stared at her. Excuse me? Natalie actually laughed, a nervous laugh. I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger. Clarity. James stood up, extended his hand. Matt, good to see you, man. Hope you don't mind me crashing. Deborah invited me. I didn't shake his hand. You knew about this. I thought you'd be mature enough to handle it. It's just dinner. Just dinner. My wife's ex-boyfriend at Thanksgiving without anyone telling me. Deborah beamed at James. James has been such a dear. He still checks in on me, brings me flowers on my birthday. That's the kind of man who understands family. She glanced at me. Some people just have that instinct. James did this humble shrug. Deborah's always been like a second mom to me. Kelsey emerged from the kitchen, giving James a side hug. And he just got promoted to regional director. We're so proud of him. James waved it off. It's really more of an executive role now, overseeing operations across 4 states. Vague, no specifics, just buzzwords. I noticed his watch looked expensive from across the room, but up close, the face was slightly crooked. Replica. The crown was too thick, and the second hand moved in ticks instead of the smooth sweep of the real thing. I'd seen enough guys at work try to flex knockoffs to spot one immediately. I looked at Chris. He looked like he wanted to evaporate. Gave me a small nod of solidarity. This was a setup. They planned this. Invited James specifically to remind me and Natalie of what she could have had. Natalie kept on trying to make everything seem normal. We moved to the table. Deborah sat at the head, Kelsey to her right, James next to her, me and Natalie to her left. Chris sat at the far end. Already checked out. About 20 minutes in, it started. So, Matt, Deborah said. Natalie mentioned you're still in that same position at work. No movement on the promotion front. I'm doing well where I am. Steady work, good benefits. Steady, Deborah repeated like she was tasting something sour. Kelsey, didn't Chris just get promoted again? Chris looked up, startled. Yeah, VP of Operations now. VP of Operations. Deborah said. That's the kind of trajectory that gives a woman security, not just steadiness. Chris looked like he wanted to disappear. I'd later learn he hadn't even wanted that promotion. It meant more hours away from his kids. But Kelsey had pushed for it because VP sounded better at dinner parties. James leaned forward. Hey, nothing wrong with stability. Someone's got to hold down the middle, right? Hold down the middle. He just called me mediocre with a smile. Kelsey jumped in. You know what I was telling Mom? I was looking at houses in Natalie's neighborhood. Not to buy, obviously. We'd never downgrade, but property values are declining. The schools aren't rated well. I'd be so anxious raising kids there. Natalie stiffened next to me. We'd talked about kids, about that neighborhood. We're not planning to stay there forever, Natalie said quietly. Oh, I know, sweetie. Kelsey's voice dripped with fake sympathy. I'm sure Matt has a plan. You do have a plan, right? For giving my sister the life she deserves. Deborah nodded. That's all we want, Matt. To know Natalie's taken care of, that she's not stuck. I'm not stuck, Mom. Natalie said, but her voice was weak. Of course not, honey. You always have options, right, James? James raised his glass slightly. Always. Nat knows I've got her back. He called her national. Right in front of me. Chris was staring at his plate. He wanted no part of this. I think we're doing fine, I said. We're happy. That should count for something. Happy? Kelsey said. Sure, but happy doesn't pay for private school. Happy doesn't get you into the right neighborhoods. Kelsey, Chris muttered. Maybe ease up. She shot him a look that could freeze lava. He went back to his plate. Deborah patted Natalie's hand. Sweetheart, I just want what's best for you. I look at Kelsey, at the life Chris provides. Is that so wrong? I do have everything, Natalie said. But she was looking at James when she said it. That's when Deborah dropped the hammer. You know, James was just telling me about his new condo. 3 bedrooms, city views, doorman building, all by himself at 32. That's what ambition looks like. She turned to me. Matt, when do you think you might be in a position to provide something like that? James held up his hands. Deborah, come on. Everyone's path is different. Of course, it is. Some paths just go further than others. Kelsey laughed. James grinned. Deborah looked satisfied. Something felt off, though. James talked about downtown and views, but got weirdly vague when Chris asked which building. Near the park. You know the area. No address, no floor number, just vibes. I filed that away. And when Deborah mentioned splitting the check for the side she'd ordered today, James patted his pockets. Left my wallet in the car. Venmo you later. 3rd time I'd seen him do that move at family events. Conveniently forgot cash. Promised to pay back later. I looked at Natalie, waiting for her to say something. Anything. She was staring at the table, silent. Then Deborah raised her glass. Let's toast to family, to success, to Kelsey and Chris's beautiful life, to James and his achievements, and to Natalie, who I'm sure will figure things out eventually. I set my fork down. You know what's interesting about this conversation? Deborah's smile tightened. What's that? None of you have asked if Natalie's happy. Not once. You've talked about money, property values, condos, but not once has anyone asked if she's actually happy. You just assumed she couldn't be. Kelsey rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go. You've spent 20 minutes implying I'm not good enough, using her ex-boyfriend as some kind of measuring stick, and Natalie hasn't said a word to stop it. Is this what family dinner is to you? Deborah's face went cold. I think you're being very dramatic. If you're feeling attacked, perhaps that says more about your insecurities than our intentions. James nodded. Got to be able to handle honest feedback, man. My wife's ex is at Thanksgiving making comments about what he can provide, and everyone's acting like that's normal. It's a setup, Matt. Stop, Natalie's voice was sharp. You're embarrassing me. Me? I was embarrassing her. Deborah got up to the kitchen, humming to get the turkey as if everything was normal. This whole thing was planned, I said. You invited him here to make me feel small, to remind Natalie she has options. And nobody had the decency to give me a heads up. James stood up, got in my face. Onion on his breath, eyes a little too bright. Maybe if you were man enough to handle a little competition, Deborah wouldn't have needed to remind anyone of anything. Sit down, James. Or what? He puffed his chest out, stepped closer. You going to cry about your feelings some more? No wonder Nat's been texting me. She needs a real man, not whatever you are. The table went silent. Natalie's face went white. She hadn't expected him to say that out loud. James, Kelsey hissed. Not now. But James was committed. Months of planning, and he'd finally gotten his moment. Cheap cologne and ego mixing into something stupid. You know what your problem is, Matt? You're boring. You're safe. You're the guy women settle for when they can't find anyone better. And Natalie finally realized. James, enough. Natalie said. No, let him finish, I said. My voice was calm, steady. I want to hear this. James stepped even closer. Close enough, I could see the crooked face on that fake watch. You want to hear it? Fine. You're a placeholder. Always have been. And deep down, you know it. That's why you're so threatened right now. Because you know the second Natalie wakes up, she's coming back to me. I didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Just looked at him. You done? Yeah, I'm done. He jabbed a finger at my chest. What are you going to do about it, placeholder? Nothing. Because you just showed everyone exactly who you are, and that's more satisfying than anything I could say. That's when he swung. James threw a wild right hook. Sloppy, telegraphed from a mile away. The kind of punch a guy throws when he spent his whole life getting his way and never faced real consequences. All arm, no hip rotation, weight on his front foot. I slipped it clean. Felt the air move past my face. Then I hit him back. One shot. Right on the jaw. Solid hip rotation, weight transfer. Everything my boxing trainer taught me back in college. I'd done 2 years of boxing at the campus gym. Started because I needed the cardio. Stayed because I liked the discipline. Never competed. Never wanted to. But I put in the hours. Sparred every week. Learned how to throw a punch that landed. The kind of hit that makes a sound you feel in your chest. The kind of hit that ends conversations. James's head snapped back. His eyes went glassy. His legs turned into overcooked spaghetti. He stumbled backward, arms pinwheeling like a cartoon character trying not to fall off a cliff. He didn't catch his balance. Deborah had just walked out of the kitchen carrying the turkey. 22 pounds of perfectly roasted bird on her grandmother's antique serving platter. This was her moment, the centerpiece of her Instagram Thanksgiving. She never saw James coming. He crashed into her like a linebacker hitting a punt returner. The turkey went airborne. Deborah's heels slipped on the hardwood. And then gravity happened. The bird landed directly on her chest and burst like a delicious grenade. Stuffing exploded everywhere. The gravy boat tipped, pouring gravy across her silk blouse. A drumstick detached and ended up in her hair. The cranberry sauce bowl got knocked off the counter and landed on her face. Deborah lay there on her back, covered in her own Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey carcass on her chest, stuffing in her collar, gravy soaking through her silk, cranberry sauce on her face like some kind of festive horror mask. James was on the floor next to her, groaning and holding his jaw. His replica watch had come off in the fall. It lay in a pool of gravy, face cracked. That fake Rolex shattered in giblets. Poetic. Chris laughed. A genuine, from-the-gut laugh that sounded like it had been trapped in his chest for years. Tears were forming in his eyes. I caught him pulling out his phone under the table, angling it toward the floor where Deborah was still sputtering. Kelsey shot him a death glare. "This isn't funny." "It's a little funny," Chris wheezed. Natalie was frozen, standing there with her hand over her mouth, looking at me, looking at her mom covered in poultry, looking at James, groaning on the floor. "My dinner!" Deborah finally screamed, spitting out stuffing. She sat up and looked down at herself. Gravy was dripping from her chin. Cranberry sauce was in her eyebrows. "You ruined my dinner. You ruined everything." The gravy didn't scald her, though. Nothing did, because she'd let the whole spread sit out for nearly an hour while she fussed over the table settings and lighting for photos. Sacrificed edibility for aesthetics. The Instagram would have looked great. The actual dinner? Room temperature disappointment. Fitting. "James threw the first punch," I said, calm. I defended myself. "He's the one who knocked you into the turkey. I don't care who started it." Deborah was scrambling to stand up, but her heels kept slipping on the greasy floor, like watching a seal try to climb a water slide. "Call the police. Call them now, Natalie." Deborah shrieked. "Call the police, now." Natalie pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking. She looked at me one more time, like she was waiting for me to apologize, to fix this, to make it all go away. I didn't. She dialed. James was still on the floor, sitting in a pool of pan drippings, holding his jaw. His eyes were unfocused. "Did anybody get the, what was that?" "That was a right hook," Chris said helpfully. He had given up trying to hide his smile. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. "Where do you think you're going?" Kelsey demanded. Her dress had gravy handprints on it now. "Outside to wait for the cops, since apparently that's how we're handling this." "You can't just leave after assaulting someone." He swung first. I defended myself. "Your mom got knocked down as a result of his actions. That's what happened. That's what I'll tell the cops. That's what Chris saw." Everyone looked at Chris. Chris shrugged. "James threw first. I saw it." Kelsey's face contorted. "You're supposed to be on my side. I'm on the side of what actually happened." Chris looked at me with something like respect. "James started it. Matt finished it. Then physics and turkey did the rest." I walked toward the door, stepped over James, who was still sitting in a puddle of gravy, trying to figure out what year it was. "This isn't over." Deborah screamed from the floor. She'd finally managed to sit up, but hadn't attempted standing again. The drumstick was still in her hair. Nobody had mentioned it. "You'll pay for this. All of this." I stopped at the door, turned around, took one last look at the scene. Deborah, covered in turkey, cranberry sauce dripping from her face, screaming threats. James sitting in a pool of gravy, jaw swelling, staring at nothing. Kelsey with gravy handprints on her designer dress, looking like she just watched her Instagram life collapse. Chris not even trying to hide his smile anymore. And Natalie just standing there, phone in hand, tears on her face, not moving to help anyone. Not defending me, not defending them, just frozen. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said. Then I walked outside and texted Jared. "Might need you to bail me out tonight." "What happened?" "Punched my wife's ex-mother-in-law is covered in turkey. Cops are coming." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "On my way. Don't say anything without me there. Also, please tell me there's video of the turkey thing." "No video, but I'll remember it forever." The cops arrived about 15 minutes later. 2 officers. Professional. I was sitting on the porch, calm. James was inside with an ice pack. Deborah had finally gotten up and was in the bathroom trying to wash cranberry sauce out of her hair. They took statements. James said, "I attacked him unprovoked." Deborah backed him up when she emerged from the bathroom, still slightly orange from the cranberry sauce. Kelsey backed him up. Natalie just stood there, not saying anything either way. Chris spoke up. James threw the first punch, he said, clear and calm. I saw the whole thing. He got in Matt's face, called him names, jabbed him in the chest, then swung. Matt defended himself with one punch. James stumbled backward and knocked Deborah down. She was carrying the turkey. That's exactly what happened. Kelsey looked at him like he'd just burned down their marriage along with their mother's Thanksgiving. That's not what happened, James said. His jaw was already swelling. Words were getting mushy. That's exactly what happened, Chris said. And I'll say it again in court if I have to. The officers exchanged a look. One of them pulled me aside. Here's the situation. We've got conflicting statements. The guy's got a mark on his face. Even if he threw first, someone's getting taken in tonight. I nodded. Do what you got to do. They cuffed me, read me my rights, put me in the back of the squad car. As we pulled away, I saw Deborah standing in the doorway, still slightly orange from the cranberry sauce she hadn't fully washed off. Still had a piece of stuffing in her hair she'd missed. Still furious. Natalie was behind her, crying. I didn't feel bad. Funny how getting arrested can feel like freedom when you've been trapped in the wrong life. Jared was waiting at the station when I got there. The man showed up in sweatpants and a hoodie, looking like he'd been pulled off his couch mid-game, but he had cash for bail and the name of a defense attorney ready to go. Bail's posted, he said as we walked out into the cold night air. Misdemeanor assault, first offense. You'll be fine. Thanks for coming. Are you kidding? I've been waiting for something like this for years. Every time we hung out with Natalie's family, I could see you dying inside. This was inevitable. I'm just glad you finally snapped in style. We got in his car. He looked at me. So what now? I pulled out my phone, opened my contacts, found the number for a divorce attorney my coworker had recommended after his own disaster of a marriage. Now I go scorched earth. What about Natalie? She made her choice. She chose to sit there while they tore me down. She chose to call the cops on me for defending myself. She chose to not say one word in my defense. She's not my wife anymore. She's just the woman I used to be married to. And that prenup is about to become the best investment I ever made. We got back to my apartment around midnight. I didn't go inside. Didn't even want to look at the place where I'd spent 2 years pretending everything was fine. I need to crash at your place tonight, I said. Already assumed. Guest room's ready. At Jared's place, I sat on the couch for maybe an hour. Then I made some calls. First call, that divorce attorney. Left a voicemail. I need to file for divorce immediately. I have a prenup with an adultery clause and a financial infidelity clause. Both have been violated. Call me back as soon as you can. Second call, my bank's 24-hour line. Locked down our joint account. Set up a new individual account. Arrange to transfer my direct deposit first thing in the morning. Third call, building management's emergency line. The lease was only in my name. Natalie had never been added officially. I requested that they not let her add anyone to the lease or make any changes without my written approval. By 2 a.m., I had a plan. The next morning, I went back to the apartment while Natalie was at her yoga studio. Started taking back what was mine. Pre-marriage furniture, my gaming setup, my TV, my kitchen appliances, my books, my files, the good cookware my mom gave me, the espresso machine I'd bought with my first bonus, the Bluetooth speaker system I'd installed myself, the artwork I'd bought before we met, my tools, my winter gear, my every gift I'd given her that she'd shoved in a closet because it didn't match the energy. I left them there untouched for now. I also grabbed the box from our closet shelf. The one with our wedding album, her love letters from the first year, the ticket stubs from our first concert. I put it by the door. She could keep that. I didn't want any souvenirs from a lie. Then I changed every password. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, Amazon Prime, building gym fob, garage door clicker. Removed her as an authorized user on my credit cards. Changed the Wi-Fi password. Set up two-factor authentication on everything. 1 hour of work and she was locked out of every digital convenience I'd been paying for. I screenshot every text where she called my boundaries low vibration. Every time she chose her family over addressing their disrespect. Every spiritual buzzword she'd used to avoid accountability. Backed it all up to the cloud. Friday morning, Natalie texted, "Are you coming back? You assaulted James. You embarrassed me in front of everyone." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "James threw the first punch." Not, "I'm sorry my family treated you like that." Just concern about embarrassment. I didn't respond. She called twice. By noon, the text shifted. "This silent treatment is toxic. The universe is showing me that you're not aligned with growth right now. Mom's still finding stuffing in her hair. You owe her an apology. I saved that last one. Figured my attorney might appreciate the comedy. I spent Friday setting things up. The divorce attorney called back. Guy in his mid-40s, sharp, no nonsense. We met that afternoon. How long married? 2 years. Any kids? No. Assets? Apartments in my name. Only joint checking. I already locked down. She makes about a third of what I make. And I've got a prenup with an adultery clause. Tell me about the prenup. Ironclad. Both parties had separate attorneys review it. If either party is unfaithful, emotional or physical, they forfeit alimony and walk away with only their pre-marriage assets. There's also a financial infidelity clause. Any unauthorized transfers over $5,000 trigger the same penalty. Is she in violation? I told him what I knew so far. The texts I'd screenshot. James's outburst at dinner confirming they'd been in contact. The $15,000 she'd loaned her sister from our joint account without telling me. He nodded. That's a start. Any documentation of the emotional affair? I'm working on it. Keep digging. If we can document emotional infidelity combined with the financial transfer, that prenup does the heavy lifting. She walks with what she came in with. We filed that Monday. I pulled the bank statements myself. Breach of prenuptial agreement. I requested she vacate the apartment within 30 days. The next week, I found more. Natalie had used my laptop to help Kelsey with paperwork and never logged out. When I grabbed a tax PDF, her downloads were still there. Bank statements, credit cards, past due notices, all with Kelsey's name. Behind the Instagram, Kelsey was buried in debt. Designer bags on Max cards, a kitchen remodel at 18% interest, behind on the mortgage. She'd borrowed $15,000 from Natalie secretly. Promised to pay it back 10 months ago. And people at work were sick of her. 3 complaints for bullying, taking credit for others' work, bad-mouthing colleagues. The woman who spent Thanksgiving talking about property values was one missed payment away from collapse. Even better, in that same downloads folder, I found one email thread between Natalie and James. Enough to show a pattern. My attorney subpoenaed the rest in discovery. Messages going back months. One where she wrote, "Sometimes I think about what my life would look like if I'd stayed with you." Another where he called her, "my future." Emotional affair documented. I called my attorney. Found something interesting. Emails between Natalie and James showing emotional affair behavior going back months, plus Kelsey's financial mess involving the money my wife transferred. All of it documented. Send me everything. We'll see what sticks. Wednesday, Natalie got served. 2 days later, building management called me. "Sir, your situation is back outside, and she's assembling props." Props? Candles, crystals, some kind of bowl. She's barefoot again. Call me if she lights anything on fire. I walked down and there she was. Same courtyard, same winter air that feels like it's personally mad at your lungs. Natalie's barefoot again because apparently shoes block truth. She's got another crystal circle going, but this time it's bigger, like she upgraded to the deluxe package. There's a little metal bowl in the middle with a candle, a stack of papers, and what looked like a bundle of sage, plus a printed screenshot from some law of attraction account. She had 2 tall candles, 2. One labeled Matt and one labeled Natalie written in Sharpie, like that makes it binding. Security is watching from the doorway, like they're waiting for a boss battle to start. She sees me and her face does that thing where she tries to look serene but her eyes are panicking. "Matt, I was hoping the universe would guide you to me. Building management called, said you were doing whatever this is." She launched into her routine, closing energetic loops, returning harmful intentions, the divorce being just a concept. She held up the papers like they were cursed. Started chanting. "Natalie, the prenup. You violated it. The prenup was signed under a lower frequency. We were different people then. We signed it 2 years ago. You're the same person, just worse at hiding it." She tried the pivot. Thanksgiving was a test. James was the universe showing her what she needed to heal. She'd been doing the work. "You've been texting him for months. That's not a test. That's cheating." Her face twitched. The serene mask cracked. "It was emotional support. You were always so closed off." There it is. My fault again. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded paper titled Intention Agreement with bullet points about trust, growth, and mutual abundance. "You want me to trade a legal contract for that? It's about energy, Matt, not control." "Natalie, no." Security shifts closer. Her voice starts shaking. "If you do this, you're blocking your own happiness." "I don't think I will. I already did a cord cutting with James. The candles proved it. Candle wax isn't admissible evidence, Natalie." I handed her my attorney's card. "What's this?" "All communication goes through counsel. No more texts. No more energy lectures. She stares at the card. Then, because she can't help herself, she holds the divorce papers over the candle again. I'm sending it back. I look at the security guy. If she lights anything on fire, call the non-emergency line. I look back at Natalie. Paperwork doesn't care about vibes. She starts crying. Matt, please. I love you. You love the idea of not being alone. That's different. Goodbye, Natalie. I don't argue. I don't debate. I just turn and walk back inside. Behind me, she's still whispering affirmations into the cold air, trying to manifest a reality where disrespect doesn't have consequences. Jared texted me 10 minutes later. Bro, she's outside again. Security says she tried to return and send her your divorce like it's junk mail. Some people learn. Some people light candles at problems and call it growth. Then came Chris's text. Matt, I need to talk to you. Can we meet? We got coffee that afternoon. He looked different, alert, like someone who'd finally woken up. I'm filing for divorce. I saw everything at Thanksgiving. How Kelsey orchestrated the whole thing. How she's been lying about our finances. I've been documenting everything for months. I was just waiting for the right moment. He handed me a few printouts, confirmed what I'd already found on Natalie's laptop, plus filled in gaps. James had been lying the whole time about the condo. He'd been crashing at a friend of Kelsey's since before Thanksgiving. The 3-bedroom with city views was just a corporate furnished rental with a move-out date circled. Past due notices for his car lease, collection letters, a performance plan at work. The regional director wasn't thriving. He was cosplaying success with overdue notices and a short fuse. And the emails between Kelsey and James. They planned the whole thing. One email from Kelsey 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Mom's on board. We'll do it at dinner. You just need to be charming and let the comparison speak for itself. Matt will either blow up and prove he's unstable or sit there and take it and prove he's weak. Either way, Natalie sees what she's missing. They'd choreographed everything. The toast, the comments about property values, the condo bragging, all scripted. I forwarded everything to my attorney, the planning emails, the financial documents, all of it. Thank you for showing me the full picture. Thank you for showing me it's okay to walk away. I've been drowning for years. Watching you stand up, that woke me up. By late spring, the divorce was final. For months of back and forth, 2 mediations that went nowhere. Then she finally signed. Prenup held. Natalie got her car and her stuff. Nothing else. Clean break. The assault charge got dropped. Chris's detailed statement confirmed James swung first. And the DA wasn't chasing a losing case. But I wasn't done with James. Civil court's a different game. I sued for assault and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Took 8 months. Those planning emails would have been read into public record at trial. James knew it. He tried to settle at $5,000. We went back and forth. Settled at $18,500. Every dollar came out of pocket because he'd let his renter's insurance lapse. I donated half of it to a local youth boxing program. Felt right? The other half went into my savings. Call it the placeholder fund. Kelsey's termination landed about 6 weeks later. HR finally moved on those complaints. She tried to negotiate a quiet exit, but the paper trail was too thick. James got let go after. Turns out the performance plan was just a formality before they cut him loose. Chris's divorce took longer, about 9 months once the financials got audited. He kept the house and primary custody. Kelsey got supervised visits and a payment plan for the debt she'd hidden. And me? I'm good. Debt-free, drama-free. Got a promotion in February. Senior accounting manager now. The irony isn't lost on me. Met someone new a few months ago. A physical therapist named Hannah. Practical, grounded. No crystals, no manifestation podcasts, just normal conversation and real laughs. It's refreshingly boring. She asked about my last Thanksgiving. My mother-in-law ended up covered in turkey. Her ex-boyfriend's fake watch ended up in a puddle of gravy. She was picking stuffing out of her hair for days. Had cranberry sauce in her eyebrows. I need all the details. Maybe someday. Short version, I left that dinner with my dignity, a prenup enforcement, and a story I'll tell forever. Sometimes I think about that scene. Deborah on the floor wearing the main course. James next to her, jaw swelling, sitting in gravy. Kelsey's designer dress ruined. Chris finally laughing. They wanted me to fold, to beg, to prove I was worthy. Instead, I threw one punch, watched Karma deliver the turkey, and walked out. That's not revenge. That's just consequences with gravity. And honestly, it's the most peaceful I've felt in years. What do you think? Did I go too far, or was this the only way to escape such a toxic family situation? Have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with manipulative people, even if they were family? Let me know in the comments below.